Gluing on either side, about halfway up, on each of the petals, all the way around. Take your bud, place it through the hole in the centre of the foam again, bring it down and try to get the petals aligned so that the first one that you do is going to cover over a gap in the petals there. And you hold the petals with your thumb and your forefinger and you attach it to the cone, but you leave a gap. You don't attach the entire thing. You're just attaching the edges. You do that all the way around. So there's like a little bowl shape. You can see down into the rose. Next one, pull that petal back, push that in really quickly, pull that one back up with your thumb. And then you can manipulate them a little bit and make them look a little bit more realistic. And I like to leave that hanging upside down while I'm doing the next row. Leave it like that. On the edges. On this one, I'm usually a little bit harder on the petals. I stretch them out a little bit because the rose is now so big that they have that extra space that they need to go around, so I try to elongate them a little bit and widen them a little bit. Again, roll them back, perhaps a little bit less than I did the last time. I was a little bit too rolled back, made it look a bit pointy. Just really gently doing that. You don't want it to distort the paste too much. Maybe a little bop in the centre too. Again, glue on half, just halfway up the sides of each petal. Take your rose. You can use much smaller amount of wire on these two. I tend to use long wires because they're easier to fold over and hang off the flower boards, but some people find it easier to use a shorter wire. Again, do the same thing as you did last time. Try and find in between the petals and attach. Now, it's quite soft, so you'll have to be quite gentle. And just your thumb and your forefinger, you're not attaching the entire surface area of the petal, you're just attaching the sides where the glue is, all the way around on the last one. And if you can't get it to go under the first one, don't worry about it. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. Play with the petals a little bit, hang it upside down, and that is a full rose. Like I said, you can continue to manipulate the petals. You can even continue to manipulate them for a couple of hours after you've made it. I like to let them set up for a little while and then come back to it and move them around. So we're going to do another row of petals on this. I think the one that everyone was asking me about, which was on a birthday cake that I did a few months ago, had maybe 2 extra rows of petals on top of that. It was 4 inches 10 centimetres in diameter. It was a really massive one, but I was trying to make a single rose cover almost an 8-inch cake, so I was lazy. Just making one rose. So this time we're going back to the individual cutters, because to use this again on there, you'd barely see the petals. They'd now be stuck out here somewhere. So you can use as many as you like. You don't have to use 5, but I think 5 or 7 is best. If you think it looks good with 4 or whatever, then you can do it. I like to add petals in odd numbers. So this is the very largest of the petals, which would work. but I'm going to go with the second largest. Let's see how that goes. It's all a matter of, it's not really an exact science, it's a matter of what the rose looks like as you're making it as to what petal cutter you use. So I'll cut this out. Oh, it fell straight out. So it's a bit tatty around the edges because I didn't rub it, but you can smooth it over with your fingers, it'll be alright. Onto your petal pad, upside down, take your balling tool, soften the edge. And what's really useful here is a spoon. Bit of dust on the spoon so it won't stick. And you just hang that off the edge of the spoon and the petals curl around the spoon like so. And you just leave that there for a little while. So you could certainly leave it like that. That's with 3 rows. That's a full rose. 3 rows of petals plus the original one that we put in there first. It's still pretty soft, but what we're going to do is take each of these petals that we've had drying on the spoons and put them on one by one. Just pick them up. You can leave them on the spoons to dry for probably 5 or 10 minutes without worrying about it. Using the paste recipe that I use, I'm not sure about other pastes, so you would have to experiment with your own. And you just twirl this around. And what I've done here is I've added 5 extra single petals, and if you wanted to make it larger than that, if you wanted another row, then you would add 7, and if you wanted it larger than that, then you would probably go up to the next size petal cutter and you would add 9. You just keep adding 2 for as long, to make it as big as you want. But I think they get to a stage where you put so many on them that they no longer look realistic. But it depends what look you're after. I have also done these on toothpicks, just shoving a toothpick into the foam cone without any glue, and they can then be inserted straight into a cake. Just get that petal back. A little bit more glue on that one. On a toothpick they can be inserted straight into a cake because it's considered food safe, whereas if you're using them on a wire they have to go into a rose cone or a straw or something like that so that the wire doesn't actually make contact with the cake. So there you go, there's another row, and again see they're all flopping out, so they're very soft, so hanging it upside down is beneficial. Or if you've got something like this, a flower former, a gerbera flower former, you can pop it in there. I'm going to let it hang for a little while, and then I'll pop it into the gerbera former to open it up a little bit.